All right.
Okay. So it is 7:10. Call the meeting to order. This is the September meeting of the Bristol Planning Commission. We'll review any agenda. We'll review the agenda. For any additionals, removals, or adjustments, does anybody have anything they would like to change or add, detract? Okay. On to administrative matters. First item is approval of the 8-3 minutes. If somebody entertain a motion to approve. Jeff moves. Any second? A second. Lloyd seconds. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Doesn't look like there'll be any no's or abstentions. Is that correct? So minutes passed unanimously. Next item is update from the zoning administrator, if any.
Just a couple things on the radar for folks to be aware of. The firehouse apartment, it's the 20-unit apartment complex that they're looking at building next to the fire station. They're having their conditional use hearing a week from tonight. That's out posted on the website if people are interested in that. We've got a handful of subdivisions that went on. One of the probably most visible ones is, as people know, Clark's subdivided what used to be the community gardens on the corner of Liberty and West Pleasant into 3 building lots. Other than that, I mean, we've been busy, but it might slow down finally. I'm hoping.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there any issues with the housing complex that you're aware of, or is this just?
Not really. I mean, it's a little. There were some concerns with some folks because in order to make the density work, the town actually gave the developer about 5 acres of land to make it work. So, and just to see how to put 20 housing units in the center of the village, what conditions are going to be placed upon that? That's a huge. During their sketch plan, they ran into one of the big pushes was they'd really like a traffic study. How is that going to impact, especially you add a business park right behind it on an already congested piece of West Street twice a day. Right. So those are just concerns.
Yeah.
There's some concerns about, there's some concerns on parking, of course, the usual landscaping, lighting, noise, things like that. So hopefully Evernorth and ACCT will address all that.
Is it townhomes or how is it? I haven't seen a sketch
It's
at all.
going to be 14 apartments. It's going to be 1 large row house, okay, and then 2 duplexes, I believe, that are going to be units of 3 bedroom. They might be triplexes. I can't remember the exact one.
Okay,
it's going to be 20 housing units, 1 large row house, and 2 individual buildings.
So 14 row houses. Okay. Dense housing, what we
very dense,
right?
Yeah. So,
Any other questions or comments on the zoning report? Okay. Miscellaneous correspondence. Katie had sent out, and I think I sent it out today, so it was kind of late coming out, a CVOEO VHFA survey. She had sent out another one just recently. This is another one with a little bit different slant on housing. I'm not sure. I was inclined to just do the survey, but then I figured we should discuss it and see if anybody else would prefer to do it or not do it.
Which
Let's send it out today.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong document, sorry. The wrong email.
Sorry, it uses the term housing committee, so would that be the same as just our planning commission, or?
I think it asks if we have one, and I'm not aware of one, so I
Yeah,
think the answer to that question would be no, and then you just go on and you know, answer the survey appropriately.
okay,
So I don't have a problem filling out of it. I just want to make everybody aware of it before we do that. The next thing, if there's no more discussion on that, is the Addison County Regional Planning is going to have their full meeting tomorrow night. And the town plan, the approval of the Bristol Town Plan is on the agenda at that meeting.
Great.
I sent out an email delivery of information preferences, and I had few responses, and I assume that people that didn't respond are okay with how we're doing it, or I'm doing it. So I'm thinking that's okay. And then this, excuse me?
sorry, I'm still getting emails to my business email, and I had requested to go to my personal email. Is that what you were talking about?
If that's what you want, I don't recall getting an email, so.
Yeah, I replied. And there were a couple of other. You had asked something else. I can't recall what it was, but yeah. Well, I can send you my personal email and let you know.
Okay, would you please?
And Melissa, could you CC me on that as well? This is Chris, just so that,
Chris? Okay,
that way I can make sure I have it changed on my mailings as well.
okay, will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. The final piece of miscellaneous correspondence is there was an email sent from Valerie to Jeff and I this afternoon in regards to the Green Peak Solar Project that is on Lathrop's land. They are in what they think is the final stages of PUC review, and just wanted to make sure it was still open, that if the planning commission, as that project develops, has some concerns about screening, that they're open to hearing those concerns. So I think I will make that part of the minutes so you can see the correspondence, but I think it was mostly, my understanding is mostly an advisory email. It wasn't any action for us at this point.
Right, it says no action is required,
Right.
so that's pretty clear.
So that's it for miscellaneous correspondence. Let's move to continuing business. We had discussed the planning commission implementation task, modified and regrouped last meeting, and some people were indicating they really hadn't looked at it. So I wanted to keep that on the agenda for one more meeting. So if anybody had any questions, concerns, or comments, we could review that. All I hear is crickets. So we'll move on to the next one. The planning grant opportunity draft verbiage. Jeff was kind enough to start that process and sent around under separate cover an email earlier for us to review. And I think at this point, Jeff, if you want to kind of discuss what you've done and
Sure.
take it from there.
So first, I'd say that after I started working on this, I got an email from Valerie, not from Valerie, I'm sorry, from Katie, informing me, I think you saw it also, or I mentioned it, that there's a second grant process going on right now. This one is, the one I filled in is a very broad one, can apply for almost anything. There's a specific grant program which is to revise bylaws regarding to housing, which would mean in this case, the UDR, I think. That's what they're saying by bylaws. So one of the questions, and I don't have the answer to this, is which of these is better for us? So I filled in this one because some of the verbiage would be the same no matter how you do it, but it looked like the bylaws one required less filling in. And I don't know, so I want to ask, especially you, Chris, if you have any ideas on that. Does it matter which is more likely to get us a grant? Yeah, any?
I think the latter of the two,
The bylaws.
the bylaws, the municipal grant can be fairly competitive. I mean,
Okay.
we applied one other time and didn't get it. So it's a great grant if you can get it. I don't remember what the match level was.
I think it's the same on both.
It's
It's
so.
10%, I believe.
Yeah, and you've got about 5,000 or 6,000 in your consulting budget right now.
Yeah.
And we can apply to that. I'm just arbitrarily scrolling through your.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I wondered if the bylaw one, since it's tailored to what we're doing, might be better. We could still discuss the approach to take because it's similar, but I think it's a little less onerous in terms of things you have to do.
Anybody else have any initial impressions or thoughts? No. I personally, or I would like to see it as wide scoped as possible, not focused just on housing. So I don't know if that would tend to lead us to one direction over the other.
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think. So what would you include besides housing, like transportation?
Well, if we go back to that whole group one
Yeah,
clump, I mean, we were talking about some other quality issues like transportation, walkability,
right.
childcare, you know, those type of things, and whether we end up encompassing all those when we finally do our work. I think I would be hesitant myself to limit us up front to something that so the title says we're going to work on bylaws, but I think we've got
It's housing bylaws specifically.
housing bylaws, but I think we've got other things that we
Well, yeah, as I wrote it, I
should consider.
included, at least I made some references. I think I have to look at it again, some references to transportation, because you really can't do housing without transportation. So I can appreciate that idea.
Does that limit at all how the money is, how we spend the money if we get the grant? Does that mean money from that has to go to each thing, or is it still up to us how we allocate?
We have to tell them what we intend to do, and then we have to spend the
Right.
money you said, obviously. But as Kevin was saying, the program, which is specifically for, let me, it's the same one. Wait a second. One is specifically about housing. Okay, it's a bylaw modernization grant to municipalities. Well, it's for land use development and zoning bylaw updates in support of a pedestrian-oriented development pattern that would increase housing choice and affordability. So it includes a little bit of transportation, but not a lot. The The municipal planning grant is to promote planning, revitalization, and development activities that maintain Vermont's land use goal of compact settlements separated by rural lands. So it's much broader. And we can apply for something which is broader than simply modernizing bylaws if we do that. But you think the competitiveness, there's a lot more money in the MPG pot. It's, well, actually, it's not that much. The MPG is has $500,000 to grant, and the bylaw, no, I'm sorry. Let me get that right. Actually, the municipalities grant is smaller. The total pot is $450,000 versus the bylaw grant has $500,000. So they actually have more money to throw around. So I just don't know what would be the better way to go on this. We don't have to, yeah.
My only question is, and it's just because it's been a while and it's been a long summer. What is the long-term goal of the grant money? Is to have somebody come in and help us retool our zoning regs, correct? So
Right, which is bylaw modernization.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's to get a study, an updated study of housing needs, which can include transportation, and then make recommendations as to how we could update our bylaws to fit these stated goals of, increasing compact development.
where I'm going with this is, I mean, I'm gonna grab the budget off my desk in a second. I mean, again, you've got about $6,000 to work with. That you may be able to achieve that without having to go through these. I'm just, because if especially the study aspect, I think that's, you're looking seriously for data is the big one, I believe, correct? That you want updated, relevant data for today, not the data that we're seeing in a lot of the studies, which are 2018, 2019 kind of numbers with pre-COVID-y.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 to me doesn't sound like much money for a consultant.
No.
Consultant.
When we rewrote.
Melissa or Tom, do you have any input? Lori?
Well, is this the same grant we were talking about last time? Because I thought we were thinking there would be enough funds, to pay for someone to come in and help.
Well, we can get it, it's the same grant. What we did was found out that there's now 2 grant programs. So one question is, which one would we apply for? I think Katie, when she sent it to me, said that she thought that the bylaw one would be more appropriate, or it might be easier to get.
And it's one or the other? We can't apply for both?
We could apply for both. I somehow doubt we would get both.
Right.
So Katie said to me, she sent me this, and then she said, after further investigation into the grant opportunity, I do not think you need to apply for a municipal planning grant as well. The bylaws modernization grant includes community surveys as an allowed use of the funding.
Okay.
So, but if we specifically, so I don't know how much we can include transportation in the grant, because it does affect how you would write the bylaws, right?
Tom has a question. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I'm a little confused on the dollar amounts here. I'm seeing a couple of different things. The $500,000, is that the total pot for the state?
That's the total pot for the state.
I'm
The
assuming
ma-
that, yeah. Seeing the, is it the 22,000? Is that the kind of thing we're looking at?
maximum application a town can do, a municipality can apply for is 25,000 for the municipal planning grant and 22,000 for the individual, for the bylaw modernization grant. So they're very close, and I don't think we would apply for anywhere near that amount, although that's another question. I have no idea what amount to put down. And the town has to do a 10% minimum cash match of 10%, but we have plenty of money for that, you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, do we need a survey of surveyors to know, get an idea of what we should be,
A sense of how much
yeah, how much it would be, yeah.
cost,
It's all over the place. In 2019, we spent 12 grand, and in 2020, we spent 1,200. I mean, 1,800.
yeah.
They're just hugely fluctuating numbers, and that's why the 2020 was the big town plan rewrite. That was with
Right.
Andrew and Katie's time. And the 18 was just the last piece of that, last little segment of that. When we did rewrite the zoning last time, I think we were in like the $6,000 to $8,000 range with Addison County Regional, and that was Adam here a lot.
So how much, I'm sorry, how much did we
That
spend?
was 6 grand. We just got grabbed last year's. I just gotta give one more time report. I can give you the exact number. Bring that out of this door. I do. I'm a hoarder. I have all these things. We spent. We didn't spend any of it. We rewrote those in 2018. Because we didn't have a grant to rewrite the zoning bylaws.
That's when we converted them to unified development.
Yeah.
districts.
But we had a grant for the rewrite of the town plan. And
Yes.
that was how much? That was
That was the grant that we got, and I think that was about 12 grand is what we spent.
12,000. And we contracted with the Regional Planning Commission to do that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think 5,000 is not going to buy you very much. I would,
Sounds to me like we,
and I suppose we can apply for more and they'll give us less,
Right.
right? So, apply for 15.
That's when I said 15.
Yeah, maybe we apply
I'd
for,
say between 10 and 20, and then.
yeah. Okay, well, we can bracket that issue right now, the exact amount. That we don't have to I would have to decide immediately on between the bylaw grant or the municipal planning grant, because a lot of the verbiage is the same. So I can look at the two again and see what we think.
I would, and I mean, obviously, it's important to not get shut out if one's more competitive than the other, but to me, we're not ready to just revise our regs. We need to back up a little bit and really take a bird's eye view
Yeah,
of all the districts, except for maybe the conservation district. That seems to be pretty well cased out in order to decide what we want to do for regs.
yeah. I mean, my thought was that whoever we hire would both say, here's the data and here's the changes you could make to your legs, right? Yes, your regs, if you wish to do so.
So one thing, when
Yeah.
Valerie and I were chatting about this, the other thing she suggested as far as like the data gathering,
Yeah.
UVM has a pile of interns that do this kind of data gathering. And her and I spoke because she's back in the office finally from her injury, so we were actually able to speak briefly last week. And as far as gathering the data, that might be able to save a large piece by utilizing some of the interns. They do the canvassing kind of stuff, and that's what they do.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't sound like a fun internship,
Are
but
they interns for?
probably like the political science or for the environment. I have no idea.
They don't have a planning degree, do they?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any in Vermont. But
Yeah,
do you want to reach out, touch base with Valerie and just see what her thoughts were on that? Because that way you can give her a better comprehensive idea of what you are really looking for. Because if that's the case, you may be fine funding wise. Honestly, I think the largest chunk of change is going to be data gathering, accurate data gathering. The next piece is, a lot of it is whether you want to bring in a consultant on the front end, middle, or during the whole process of reevaluating, like you said, step back, reevaluate your zones, and not just, and I don't want to get hung up on the specific uses, like whether or not you would allow a
Horse shed or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
that not that a minutia level, but I think almost a larger picture first, then you move into that next segment. And again, you use your town plan to sort of guide both those. And it's not just your housing needs, like you said, it's also what are your commercial, light industrial, recreational needs that would also dovetail into all those to meet your needs. And I think at the high level, just having sat through it, we did that by ourselves the last few times we've done it as a group. Did we do it right? Probably not. A consultant might have been helpful, but it really wasn't that hard to do. This is a very great group of people, very diverse group. As far as backgrounds go, I think you all would be able to pull off the front end of it. But I would confirm with Valerie on that. If we need data, which in order to, I believe, to accurately do what you're talking about, you need data. Theory and conjecture is hard to get a good answer to. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay. Tom, do you have any further comments or thoughts?
Oops, you're muted, Tom. There you go.
Thanks for asking it. So maybe what's the timeline on this? I think we talked about it before, but, and in fact, I saw it in there. You have to have this in by the end of October, is it?
So the municipal planning grant, we have to have, the application deadline is November 1st. So essentially we have 2 months. The bylaw modernization grant, the application deadline is November 15th. So we would have 2 extra weeks, but I don't think that's an issue. I think we have time to do that, assuming that our town plan is approved. Then we just have to get the select board to approve what we're doing, and we should be good to go.
So that is the next piece too, that you need to touch base with Valerie before we apply for any grants officially. We have to get select board approval.
Yeah, I've talked to her a little bit.
Okay.
She sent a form also. There's some form we have to fill in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure we didn't get
Yeah.
all the way to the finish line. And we're like, oh crap, we never got the okay from the select board.
Because
Okay.
as I understand, the select board will be the ones applying for the grant anyway.
Yeah, I think technically that's their name on it.
Okay.
Anything else, Tom?
No, I think that's good for the moment.
Melissa?
Nope, I think good.
Boyd?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Do we want to look at the language at all then?
Yeah, okay, let's keep going.
Chris has got it. You can scroll down. Yeah, scroll down a little bit. So, 2.3 is project subtitle, which is what the state will use to describe what we're doing. Bristol will survey its housing needs and availability, affordability, and amend its bylaws to increase housing options. It's pretty much straightforward, I think. And then I have some more And then there's the project description. For some reason, part of it's in yellow and part is not. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at it yet. I did send it around. If you have any comments on it.
So Louis, do you have any input?
I don't have much on that. Yeah. I'm just gonna read that.
Okay.
I think it does kind of cover things.
Okay.
So,
Melissa, any thoughts?
No, I mean, it looks like, I mean, it's pretty, I mean, it's basic. What we're doing is pretty basic anyway, you know?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's, my glasses on.
So then the next part, are we finished with that part? Sorry.
This, Tom, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I was going to ask, we talked earlier about focusing on housing and then or transportation and so forth. So have we decided what we're going to focus on as far as the application is concerned?
Well, the application, it says it would furnish on what's the housing situation and what would be the ways. The town plan says things we want to do, additional mixed senior and affordable housing. So the project would update the housing needs, cost and availability, and describe potential ways to meet the needs. So that's what we do. I talked about compact and walkable here, so I didn't put anything specifically here about transportation. But it might be possible to add something.
Well, for my part, I think I'd like to focus on the housing issue, as you might guess, but I guess the question maybe to Chris is what's our greatest likelihood of getting an approved application if we focus on one thing or multiple items?
It seems like the more focused the application is, they seem to have been more. But that's not always the case. That's why I don't want to say yes, it should be a hyper-focused application, because there have been a few of them that were a little more broad in scope. My answer is, I think you should apply for what you want. If you don't get it, you don't get it. I think that's the better answer.
Okay, so then my thought is that we could add a sentence, just a sentence here, that the project would look at how changes in housing would impact transportation in the village area.
I might even go take it a step further than just transportation. I might even go use infrastructure, because it's going to impact everything from potentially our water, electric. So
Yeah,
increasing your housing could, what's the grow out in every direction?
I agree
sure.
with that.
Okay.
I agree with that.
So I think I could do that in a sentence or two. Add that in. I think that's a good idea. Who knows? Maybe we'll even end up with sewers, right? Not in my lifetime.
No, that's unlikely.
Now,
I think for my part, I would like to, focus on the housing and.
Yeah, well, I think the focus, I'm sorry, go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Well, you understand what I'm saying anyway. I'd like
The
to
focus
focus
would
on
be-
the housing.
On how, but there are add-on effects of changing housing bylaws.
I think your added verbiage there is good, and it obviously refers to that, and we can focus on that too as we go along.
Yeah, and maybe that's even better in a way, because it shows that we're not thinking just through a microscope. Well, let's just add housing. It's more about how do we deal with how does housing impact everything in the planning? So then the other question was, if we're through with that, are we through with that part?
Yeah, I think I had a concern about the narrow scope, and I think that additional
Yeah.
sentence will take care of that.
So the next part was about the geographic areas project would address. And my question is, are we looking at the village planning area only, or are we including the rural planning area?
Any thoughts?
I mean, I would think it would have to include the entire area. To, you know, if you're focusing just on the village, then we're not, you know, there may be other opportunities to make changes. You know, we're including the whole town.
Yeah.
I agree with Melissa, and I mean, in fact, some of the housing possibilities are just outside the village district anyway. So, yeah, I think the whole town should be included.
Yeah, there will be activity out there anyway.
Yeah, okay. That's
I mean, just from a zoning standpoint, in the last year, just a history, I mean, all of the new homes being built have been outside of the village planning area.
really,
Well,
Huh.
the village planning area is so mature, there's relatively few opportunities. if
Yeah.
any.
Yeah, Hewitt Road, some on Lovers Lane, a little bit out on Burpee Road, but that's about it for.
I'm building
and-
one next year.
Yeah.
And that's-
Oh, I take it back. There is one. I take that back. Sherry Jackman's is a new house in the village. That
But
was-
there are, well, I understand that, I guess and I'm not objecting to doing the entire area, but in terms of the village planning area, there's a lot of big spaces that are not being used now, and I'm not sure why. That could be, and maybe changing the bylaws would encourage that.
Somebody owns that land, and
Yeah, they're not using it for whatever reason. I don't know if that's because the bylaws restrict what they can do.
There's another big chunk of it coming up for potential development. There's hopefully a sketch plan on that next Tuesday as well. Behind the North Street project, the whatever cottages. I can't remember what they call them. Right behind that, it's the Thomas land. He wants to do 3 to 6 duplexes out in that back meadow.
Is that in the village planning area? Yeah. And you mentioned the Clark lots. I mean, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
I have no idea, Tom, you would probably have a better sense, you're the realtor, that there's so much demand now that suddenly empty lots, which people let lie fallow, so to speak, are now worth a lot more money. I don't know if that's true or not.
But they are, and I think people are being a little bit more intimate with the market. I can tell you that it's changing somewhat from what it was in the spring. It was vastly a seller's market, and that is subtly changing here now, which could be a seasonal factor, but still, it's not like you're getting people rushing out when a property's listed. It's got multiple offers that day, so it's somewhat less than that now. But any new lots in the village are certainly going to be attractive and desirable.
Yeah, okay.
Now, I wouldn't think the housing market is going to settle down at any time, because it's still, we just don't know what's going to happen in the next, with the COVID.
Yeah, well, as I
You know,
mentioned,
it's just everything is so flux. I mean, it's amazing how long ago this started. And I've seen a lot of things in the supply chain, but it seems to be taking a not very good turn right now. They're having trouble with shipping and and prices are going up, and prices are starting to go up now where they didn't really in the last year. And I think that's going to affect, housing, people's ability to either buy a house or how much rent they can pay and so forth.
Yeah. Okay. Could you scroll down a little bit more?
So to just
Yeah.
close the loop on that one, we're gonna extend the range to the
To the-
town.
No, I would just do like I said, the conservation zone is which is about half of the landmass, is pretty hemmed in.
Yeah,
I mean, you could tweak some of it here and there on the fringes, but for the most part, it's really your village planning area and your rural ag planning.
So all districts except for conservation?
Well, so you already have 3 planning districts built into the town.
Okay,
Right, that's what this
Yeah.
is in reference to that. There's the village planning area, the rural
Planning.
and conservation. The conservation really doesn't have options for
so
housing.
it'll be the rural planning,
And
which
the village.
has sub zones in it. And then the village planning area.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, so that encompasses about 45%, I think, of the town is what that number shakes out. So
It affects everything that we could possibly do.
at a large scale.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, can you just scroll down again? There was another, you can keep going.
It's all
So it's not
status
a
stuff,
consortium. We don't need to, I don't know about what other funding sources, I haven't, if any were considered, haven't really thought about that part yet. This is not relevant. The part, keep going. Keep going, project management. Oh, here we go, let's go back up. What public participation methods will the project use to engage the participation of the broader public? Okay, I'm flying blind here. Well, how do we, I don't know what, I can look at what we did for the MPG.
Which wasn't, we've never had great public participation. We've never, we set it up as we have public meetings and we hope that people show up. There's no, but they feel like every other meeting. I mean, I get on the soapbox on a regular basis and all the towns I go to. One of the things I sat through in Heinsberg about 12, 14 years ago when I was living there, they had Alex, who's the planner in Heinsberg, they actually did a public charrette. They brought people, it was very, first of all, they gave away pizza. They brought a lot of people in. But they also, the big thing was he basically had broken the town into pieces and broke the room into, there was probably 40 of us the first night. Broke us into groups of like 10 to 12 people and handed us a chunk of town with a clean slate. And said, what do you think this chunk of the town should look like? No rules, just what do you think it should be? And then through 3 or 4 meetings, he would take all that data and then tighten us into smaller groups. And then finally, that's sort of the vision they had. And that's why you see like behind the firehouse, like all the residential growth that's occurred there. That was part of that planning. That was the logical next growth spot for the town of Heinsberg. And they manipulated their zoning and their town plan around that. So that's might be a concept that you could utilize, community engagement. We had talked about doing some maps and posters around town for the previous one, to show people what we were talking about. I think when we did the bylaws, we did an open house. I think we did it over at the superintendent's building. That sticks in my head. And just had people come in and it was sort of an open house, just offer your input kind of night on the bylaws. So
yeah.
I really think public engagement is huge. I know that with COVID, it's become a little bit of a challenge, but at the same time, the Zoom technology has actually created a lot more people willing to sit in on public type programs. So they don't have to come in person. It's also more convenient. You're able to get the kids to still get the kids to bed and not have to drive into town and all that kind of stuff. And if it's in the middle of February, you don't have to worry about weather. And so those are just some ideas.
Okay.
What about, would it be possible to have meeting, well, in person, I guess we're going to do Zoom meetings. Like you said certain people, you pick a section of the town and, what would you like that to look like? What if we had sections of town and we invited those people who live in that area to come to be in a meeting? And say what, if there are any issues or their ideas of how much growth they think would be, acceptable or good in that area and that kind of thing.
I see. So like almost target marketing.
Yeah. You know, this is, we're tonight, we're gonna talk about this area between whatever streets or whatever area you want to do. And this is your chance to have a direct input on where you live and your surrounding area of where you live. Or own property, I guess.
Any thoughts, Lloyd?
Well, some of those are, they're all good ideas, I guess. Yeah,
I mean, that's certainly something we, obviously, it's gonna be down the road a bit and we talk about what we're doing, but how to put it on this application, you know,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, just the question is really, you
I mean, I
know,
get the sense that this is an important part in the evaluation process
yeah, absolutely.
they use.
Well, and when they talk about, especially when they're talking about the underserved and underrepresented populations, the other option, the other thing you could include here is working with some of the local outreach groups, ACCT. I happen to work with Addison County Community Trust all the time, so I keep throwing them out there as an example. But there's a handful of local community, at least countywide organizations that do this kind of outreach and have a lot of information and traditionally try to represent their respective groups in meetings. So that might be something you could include.
Tom, any thoughts?
I mean, to use them as a resource. And
I'd actually almost include them in the discussion. Have them as
right, yes.
So I'm looking at the application, the successful application for the municipal planning grant. And it starts off by saying, Bristol is known for its many festivals and seasonal events. And then it lists, Pocock Rocks, 4th of July, Harvest Fest, Chocolate Walk, Lumen, and saying, in addition to focused public meetings, we plan to piggyback public engagement activities onto these existing popular events, like a booth at the 4th of July. Of course, we haven't been having these things this year, but maybe,
hopefully next summer.
in the coming year, it talks about putting up informational posters throughout the town, encourage citizens to come to other events such as planning sessions and public hearings, use Front Porch Forum and Facebook. So it didn't propose anything especially
Earth-shattering.
imaginative, but seems to have been successful. I don't know. Let me think. I'll try and give some thought to this and see what I can put down.
So, Tom, do you have any comments or thoughts?
Well, I think imaginative is a good phrase there to come up with just those things. That if we're looking really just to aim toward getting an approval on our application, I think any of those additional ideas are good. And where did those suggestions come from as far as the when you put those things in there?
Which ones?
Just the events schedules and how we can work those to our
Yeah,
benefit.
that was the last grant application, which was successful. That was the application.
Was that our application?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and it was successful.
I'd say repeat it.
Yeah, I might, yeah. But maybe we find, let's think, certainly there's a core there that we can work with.
I mean, if you look at their sample, they sort of touch on in the second half of the first paragraph of getting support and buy-in from the town, the school district, historical society, Irish guilds, things like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe incorporate.
Chris, you mentioned CCT, and that's one. Do you have others in mind that might be more or less sort of partners in that?
Not off the top of my head, Tom, there are a bunch of them, and I can pull that together next week and get that to Jeff. Just sort of some ideas that we might be able to intermingle into this concept.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think that would be a good ammunition in there also.
I think, we can formulate it as we'll contact other community groups such as ACCP, so on and so forth, to solicit input. That doesn't commit us to anything specific, but something which we'll try to do, because I don't think we can say specifically who's going to be helpful right now.
I thought that the term may include.
Yeah, something
You
like
just
that.
go,
Yeah, I mean, it could be Bristol Core, could include the churches and any kind of social groups in the town too.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Kind of, this is just a slightly off topic, but isn't the housing behind the fire station, isn't that ACCT or?
Yep. Yeah, that'll be 20 units managed by ACCT in the end.
Right.
So, and I like what Tom just did on too, is reaching out even at a closer to home level. I like the idea of like working with Bristol Core. You have the church. You have, God, we have a whole, there's a handful of organizations in our community that work with. It could be something even as simple as like working with the folks from the food shelf. They've got a great feeling of some of the demographics in our area and what's going on. So.
Yeah. So I think we can come up with a list and say these are groups whom we may use, or such as.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll pull together.
And who knows, we might even actually use them.
Regional planning might have a list too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I mean,
Well,
unfortunately, the underrepresented and underserved are most likely the ones that might not even have the ability to attend a Zoom meeting or,
Right. And that's why involving like an ACCP is sort of nice, because their goal is to represent their factions of who they support. So.
Mhm.
so move on.
Yep. Where would you like to go next?
I think with, let me just see. That part's pretty straightforward.
I think 5.2 is sort of a follow-up to is sort of a continuation of the same,
5.2.
which is very next
Project
section.
management, yeah, let me, 5.2, project partnership and support. Please explain and provide evidence of organizational partnership and community support for the project.
This might be more where we look at the ACCTs, and on the first one, we lean more on the local, in my mind.
Okay,
Because I'm just reading the two pieces, and
yeah. Relevant stakeholders and partners such as the Conservation Commission, the business community, local schools, regional organizations, local nonprofit. Well, I haven't done any of that yet, so we can't. I mean, we can attach letters of support and other things. I don't know how much time we're going to have to get that type of stuff done.
let's come up with, like I said, let's come up with a list of, for both these, of sort of
Sure.
the focus, and then
Yeah.
we'll blast out a request to any group that we feel that's going to help us to try to get letters of support to be attached
Sure.
to this bad boy.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So we're
How's
going to
that?
need letters of support. Well, certainly Bristol Core.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
From local groups, I'm not sure who else.
I'll pull together a list.
Okay, that would
I'll
be
get you
great.
both- I'll get you both local and regional groups to.
That would be great.
incorporate.
That would be great.
And I'll try to email that out next week to the whole group so everyone can have a list of it. And
Terrific.
And if anyone thinks of somebody additionally, he's at it.
Okay, so then there's a work plan and budget form. I haven't even looked at that yet.
That one's painful, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, oh, work plan, your draft response and table below. Wow.
What
Okay.
section are you in?
This is section, this is after the last section. Section 7 is municipal resolution, and then there's work plan and budget form.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even scroll down that far.
It's not that bad.
Okay,
I mean, it's a lot of things to fill in, but if you review what we did, I think we can pull that off.
okay, great. And then it's enter the amount of state grant funds you are requesting. And we'll just have to. Source of match, we know that, that'll be money accounting, okay, I'm not. Okay, there's a lot more stuff to do, but we got to start.
So any closing thoughts or comments? You have anything, Tom?
As far as dollar amount, I'd say go for the gold.
Yes.
Ask for it all.
They'll give you something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
when you do the cost worksheet, it really helps hem that in as well. And I think we can use a lot of the same numbers we used on the last one.
okay. I don't see that on this application.
It may not be in, I can get that for you.
Yeah, okay. That'd be
Either
fine.
myself or Valerie can get that data for you.
Sure, okay.
Melissa, you have any final comments?
No, it looks like you got it pretty well in hand and. Yeah.
Okay, Lloyd?
Looks like a good start on things here.
Okay.
Good thoughts on that.
So if I could say in terms of, in terms of actions, we're gonna get a list of local outreach groups. You'll get that, Chris, and maybe divide them into these two things, and then we'll contact the groups. And see if we can solicit.
You're gonna send us all that list first then, and then if we have any additional, we'd recommend we just send it to you.
Yeah, I'll send that out to the group. Like I said, hopefully next week.
Okay,
So we probably should understand if we're gonna, so I'll talk to Valerie about you being interns, but we also probably understand, and maybe this is a regional planning advice of likely consultants and costs and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Who should do that? Want me to do that?
Can you contact
Yeah, I can.
regional commission?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I think last time we worked with Adam on the pricing.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him and see where to go from there. So any other, so I may have interrupted, but you were going down.
No, I think that's really those are the action
Okay.
items, right? Just to figure out groups of support and budgeting.
And I'll pull the budget together and send it out to the two of you to get started on that piece.
Okay.
Because I think Kevin and Jeff really is the chairs need to wrangle those numbers out. I don't think that's something you need to sit here and
Yep,
do in-
sure.
in the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, okay,
Okay,
great.
last call.
Oh, just a thanks to Jeff for diving into that thing. That's into the muck. That's great. Thanks.
I'll
I've had
second
so
that.
much- I've had so much fun since my sister poked me in the eye with a sharp stick.
So I guess, our next normal meeting will be October, first week in October. Are we still in a good place that we can wait until then, or do we want to have an intermediate meeting?
I would recommend, because you were gonna talk to Valerie on the intern stuff and just get a feel and you know where we are on this as far as the stages where we are. She did a lot of work on this on the last round of the grant as well. And she may say, you guys got a ton more work you may need to pull together, or no, you guys are on a good track and a month out's fine. So
Okay.
that's how I would approach it.
Yeah, let's see how things develop and figure out. But we can send things around as we get them going.
Good.
Okay.
On to new business. We had set up quarterly updates with the select board, which will be this coming Monday. I sent out, as part of a package of odds and ends this morning, a quick draft of what I was looking at covering with them. Basically, our progress on our action items of the implementation plan, and the fact that we interrelated tasks that were grouped. You pulling that up, Chris?
I'm trying.
Okay.
Was it these documents?
One of those, yeah.
Quarterly select board update, is that what you're looking, or you're looking at?
The third one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one there.
And let me go back to here and share it so everyone can see what we're talking about. Almost like I know what I'm doing. My God.
So basically what we've done with our tasks, and then the fact that we're heading in a direction with what we call group one, which is primarily housing with some supporting considerations. I didn't put it on there, but I think we should talk about the fact we're entertaining a planning grant.
Yeah.
Underneath that bullet as well. The second bullet was, and I did send out this morning, the updated master plan, if you will. It's an Excel, it was an Excel sheet, but I think it converted to PDF. In anticipation of sitting down with the select board, I did get updates from the rec club, the rec department, I'm sorry, and the conservation commission, and then arbitrarily updated our task based on the group discussions. So those are all updated in that plan, as well as I plan on offering that to the select board. I think it doesn't sound like much, but it seems like we've been doing a lot more than that. But I think since the last quarter, that's pretty much in a nutshell what we've have for things that are worthy to report out. So if anybody can see any holes in that, let's talk about it.
I do think informing them that we're applying for this grant is important, because we're preparing an application for them to submit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would add that, just that
Yeah.
they should be on, I'm assuming they'll be on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine a
It
problem.
should be a formality, but that's why we're sitting down with them on a
Right,
quarterly basis to kind of
Yeah.
get this stuff out in front of them. So
good.
I did add it on my sheet, obviously, it's not going to show up on everybody else's. So. Anything else that should be included there? Going once, going twice?
You may want to, just as a update for them, that that the town plan is sitting at the regional planning for final approval.
Good
That
point.
you've already had the
And that's anticipated when?
next Tuesday, right?
Tomorrow.
Or is it
We're going
tomorrow?
to act on it tomorrow, so
Oh.
we probably might even be able to tell them it's been
Been
approved.
approved.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
So
Good point, thank you.
that's a huge piece.
Yeah.
that you should definitely mention.
Okay. Great. Anything else? Okay. Last thing on the agenda is training. I know last meeting we had, Chris, you brought up a little discussion about PUD training with the
DRB.
DRB and how that folds into us. And I don't know if there's if we should be, seems like we would all have the option to start doing that, but also start thinking about, are there other things that we as topics want to explore as a planning commission to kind of enhance our background or not?
There's a lot out there.
Yeah, there is.
And if there's something that between, I mean, VLCT does a bunch of training stuff. Addison County Regional will definitely do some trainings for us. So there's some great resources out there. And I think that if you all took the initiative to come up with 2 or 3 topics of just to, at a minimum, broaden your spectrum. I mean, like they sent out the Better Village Planning document a while ago, and maybe having them come in and go through that and explain what the concepts are. Because when you read it, you're like, yeah, it's fine, but what's the rationale? What's the implementation? What's the reality in our village versus one that may not be quite as developed? So those are just some training ideas.
What would that be? So like somebody coming in to talk to us?
Yeah.
So I think there's obviously I'm looking for input and direction. I'm also thinking about, do we set up a group to do that, or do we just end up, Jeff and I do it with Chris's help? Or now I shouldn't suggest that, because that would be the default. I don't know how we want, that's open as how we want to approach programming that, if you will, as well.
They might give you a start and get some ideas on what you might want to do differently.
So we want to just leave that open and people mull it over, and we'll come up with maybe some topics or some directions.
That's what I was going to
Next meeting?
suggest is mull it over for the next month and the next regular meeting. Everyone should try to come up with one or more ideas they've had of what they would like to be trained in.
Is there a list someplace of what kind of training is available? That's what
I can dig around.
I just don't know.
That makes 2 of us.
So
Probably different people offer different training without necessarily interacting amongst themselves.
So if you don't know, you don't. If you don't know what you want, then you don't know what you want. But there was somewhere I saw, it may have been part of the regional planning review process. There's a website for Vermont planning or something like that.
Yeah.
That seemed to have some pretty good material as well. So.
And again, at a minimum, find some resources that people could browse through and they're like, hey, I'd like to know more about this.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can see what I can find.
Great. So give that some thought and we'll touch base again next meeting. Any final thoughts or comments on that training thing? Yeah.
I think it can't hurt to broaden your spectrum of information.
Jeff, you got any?
No, there's so many things that we don't know about. The list is both broad and wide and deep.
Sometimes that's a good thing.
Yeah. So I'd have to think about it. I'm not even sure. Where we would start. That's why I was wondering what kind of training is available. And what's
My suggestion is that see what Chris's list is, and then I wouldn't be opposed to either quarterly or semi-annually, a 1-hour workshop or a 2-hour workshop sometime, exclusive of our meetings. And it can be pretty broad spectrum, or it could be specific, but who knows? But let's see what's available first.
Yeah.
Melissa?
Yep, no, just sounds like we need a little training on training.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, years ago, we did a planning retreat, one day, and it was just that, it was like 5 or 6 hours. I think we went down to Mary's. And we had some guest speakers come in and we went through some planning topics and just to sort of broaden people's horizons, so.
Okay,
I'll dig into a list for you.
great, thanks. Okay, on to public comment. I don't think we have any specific public, any commission members have any final comments under the public category?
I had another customer yesterday come in, then their family is looking to move to Bristol.
Yeah,
They've
there's
been
some-
here, they've been here once before and they came back and they're really looking to, so basically opened up and she said, what can you tell me about the town? And it was just a very broad question, but I hope I did well. It's pretty amazing how many people come. I mean, like I said, I've had the shop for 10 years and there are people that I met 3 or 4 years ago or more, and now they're moving to Bristol. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So at this point then, if there are, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Could I ask one question?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Did we discuss the open position or did we?
We
skip
did
that?
not, I kind of.
I'm not looking to prolong the meeting.
No, it's not there. I don't,
But
I haven't heard any activity,
Yeah.
so.
the person I had in mind said no. So,
I had a question. I haven't seen Bill Share for
So
4
I-
meetings now.
Yeah, so Bill still has interest. I saw him this past weekend. He's got his partner or wife, or both, has some serious health issues right now. So he has his hands full.
Okay,
And he had indicated he might join on Zoom, but obviously. he
okay.
didn't.
I just curious because we hadn't seen him for a while. I
Yeah,
assume there might be an issue.
yeah, he's got some personal.
Not that he's dropping out.
No.
Okay, great. That's useful information.
and can I ask something though? So, if you're on the planning commission, you need to be a resident of Bristol, I take it.
I'm not sure of that.
Yeah. I mean, could it be just someone who has a business in Bristol, whether they live here themselves?
Restriction.
I don't believe there, I'd have to look, Melissa, I don't
Okay,
think there is. And that's really the select board's, up to the select board to determine if the person is the right fit in the end. So like you said, a business owner actually might be a great
Yeah,
addition.
I mean, the DRB, it's a certain number have to be Bristol residents, right?
I think so.
Yeah, that's what we set it up, I believe.
Okay,
all right,
so,
well, I have a couple other possibilities I'll try to wrangle.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a business owner would be a great addition.
And I'll double check with Valerie when we cross paths next week.
Okay,
yeah, my thought was to look at our bylaws or whatever you call
Yep.
and just shoot us an email or, or me at least, since I asked.
I'll follow up with you on that one, Melissa.
it.
Okay.
So entertain a motion to adjourn. Lloyd moved, Tom seconded. Any discussion? I hope not. All in favor, say aye, raise your hand. Aye.
Hi.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries at 8:21. So took 21 minutes from you tonight. Thank you all. Good meeting, Jeff. Thank you for all your work as well.
Well, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
And it's useful to me, and I think it's important for the group that we all, there'll be a group process, not just mine. So I'll send stuff around as I get it. I always appreciate feedback.
Good.
And if we can, and it doesn't have to be reserved for the meeting itself.
Sounds great.
Okay?
If anyone's interested, I adopted a dog today, so.
Cool.
So you see me
So-
looking off, I'm just trying to kind of watch her and she's
This-
mostly been sleeping, which is great.
So then a comment with Jeff's last comment was, we gotta be careful that we're not participating to the level that we affect a quorum. So it should be one-way conversations, I would say.
Yeah. So the general rule of thumb is if somebody sends something out to the group, you don't respond, don't reply all, reply just to the sender.
Yeah.
The sender feels that it's pertinent information, they can send it back out to the group.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
sufficiently bureaucratically obtuse
It is.
that I understand it perfectly.
And that may all change. So looking at open meeting laws and those, it's probably going to change because of everything that's gone on in the last year and a
Yeah,
half. So
of course. Great.
Okay, thank
All right.
you all.
thank you all. Have a great night.
Okay, good night.
We'll see you snoozing.